Adrenaline, Venom, not knowing when I'm never gonna slow up and I'm ready to stand any momentum.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Kwame, and welcome back to the channel. And of course, welcome back to another Escape from Tarkov video. This is going to be a beginner's tips video, and all I'm going to be doing is giving you guys some clean advice on some of the mistakes that beginners make, and they may not even be aware of it. And these are mistakes that I have, of course, personally have made, so chances are you're going to be making these mistakes too. So this video is going to be another 5 mistakes that beginning players make in Escape from Tarkov. And just like my last video, remember that these tips may or may not necessarily apply to you because everyone's playstyle is different. Alright, now we got all that stuff out the way, let's get into it. Number 1 is assuming the area is secure after a gunfight. It's a pretty common mistake where you get into a gunfight and you immediately assume the area is now safe and you can now go and med up and proceed to loot the bodies. But when you go and loot the bodies, or you're trying to heal up or whatever it is, you end up getting shot by another player. It happens all the time with a lot of players, and even I make this mistake quite often. What happens is you win a gunfight, you're feeling pretty good about yourself, and you're thinking, boy oh boy, look at all this loot, that's all mine. You see what happened there? You essentially lower your guard, and that's when another player has the opportunity to sneak in and get the kill on you. Just like in this clip here, I went to the dorms and I got into a gunfight with the scav boss and his goons. It took me a while, but I ended up killing them all. And I think I went upstairs to check the marked room or something. I can't remember the real reason, but I'm going to assume it was for the marked room. So I went up the stairs and there was a player just sitting there the entire time. While I was running around killing Scab Boss on the bottom and the second floor, killing the Scab Boss and his goons, he was just sitting up here on the 3rd floor, just chilling, not making a damn sound. I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he was having a picnic up here, for all I know. I don't know. But he was up there and he didn't make a damn sound, and I lowered my guard, and that was the opportunity that he needed to take advantage of, and he ended up getting the kill on me because of it. So, don't let this happen to you, and you can combat this by assuming there is always one more. Always assume there is one more player, which will get you into the habit of not lowering your guard. Number 2 is poor stamina management. This one is pretty straightforward, but still happens often with a lot of players, and even with me. I still do this often enough that it gets me killed. Learning how to manage your stamina gauge will help keep you alive more times than you think. As a general rule of thumb, I would always try and not go below between 20 to 30% of your stamina gauge. The reason for this is that if you happen to start taking fire, you need to be able to move to nearby cover. But if your stamina gauge is in the red zone, you will have to wait until it recovers enough that the bar is in the green before you can run again. Otherwise, while your stamina gauge is low and you start taking fire, you will be stuck between a rock and a hard place, and you will often be ending your raid early. Okay, this one's going to be broken down into 2 parts because they are kind of the same thing, but at the same time, not really. That sounds confusing, I know, but you'll see what I see what I'm talking about later. So number 3, part 1, is wrong time to med. And as I've said before, there is a time and place for everything in this game, right? And that includes when to use your meds. Just because you're bleeding right now does not mean you have to bandage that blood loss right this second. Yes, I know it sucks, okay? It sucks when you've lost too much blood and you end up losing an arm or a leg or whatever, right? But you would rather lose an arm or a leg than to just die straight off the bat because you're too busy in the med animation and your opponent just walks right up to you and shoots you in the balls. If you're out in the open like I am in this clip, you cannot med here. You have to find safe cover and then you can med. If you med in the open, you'll be stuck in the medical animation and it'll be easy shots for the players who are shooting at you. Just remember your character has approximately 435 total hit points. You could lose a couple of limbs and you could still have 200 plus HP, which is more than enough to fight back. Even if you're on flashing red in the danger zone, it's not over until you're dead. So try not to panic if you're bleeding and remember to get to somewhere safe before medding. Now on to the second part of this tip. This is tip number 3, part 2, and that is over-medding. Now you might think this is the same as wrong time to med, but it isn't. It's similar but different. Let me explain why. What over-medding is referring to is when you have the chance to heal and the enemy is still around, so it might be safe to heal a little bit, but it's not safe to heal all of your wounds because it would take up too much time and your opponent can push up on you whilst you're medding and he just gets an easy kill on you. Like in this example here, I get into a gunfight with an enemy player and we are both injured. We are both trying to med up so we can get back into the fight, but I made a fatal mistake. I spent too long medding up everything when I didn't need to. You only need to med up the essentials such as bleeding, use a pain medication, make sure you're not in flashing red, and having about 200 plus HP should be enough. And that's what my opponent did. And after he did the essentials, he pushed up on me and got an easy kill on me. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean when I say over-medding. You're spending too long healing up when you should just heal the essentials, then continue on with the fight because the threat of the enemy has not been neutralized. Don't make that mistake because it will be a one-way ticket back to the lobby. Number 4 is underutilizing your gear or equipment. I know this tip can be pretty much go for any first-person shooter game, but it still applies here. And I've seen it end many people's raids early too many times for it not to be mentioned. Guys, I'm gonna say it, and it needs to be said for the people who just don't get it. If you got a scope on your weapon, use the fucking scope. That's what it's there for. You have a ranged weapon with the scope for range, so use it at a distance. If you want to push up on players when you have a ranged weapon, that's your call. I'm not going to tell you what you can and cannot do. But your chances of survival are smaller when you don't utilize your tools to your advantage. Same can be said for other things like grenades. If you got grenades, and if you got them, then use them. Another example would be something like a shotgun. Get as close as you can to your opponents. The closer the better, I say. And even not using face shields to their full potential is part of it. If you got a face shield, don't be afraid to tank a bullet to the face in order to give yourself an opportunity to kill your opponent. When it's late into a wipe, face shields certainly do lose their merits, but definitely early and mid game, they are a huge advantage because people probably won't be using bullets that can one tap through face shields all that often. For the final tip in this video, I didn't know how to explain it all too well, but this is the best that I can say it. So number 5 is putting yourself out in the open without having a plan B. Kinda sounds stupid, I know, but it's the best that I can do. So what I'm talking about is when you make a decision to do something like push an enemy, for example, and you don't have a plan B if he happens to have friends around, or for example, a third party happens to flank you when you're out pushing out this other team, do you have cover if you happen to start taking enemy fire? And if you decide to run towards enemy fire, will you be running out in the open like a goose because chances are you'll just end up just getting dead? These are things that you have to consider when making a decision in Escape from Tarkov. Sometimes you just run towards enemy gunfire and you don't have a plan B if things go wrong. It happens all the time. I've died heaps of times because I ran towards enemy fire and as I'm running towards the shots, someone just head taps me because I was running out in the middle of the open trying to get there as quickly as possible. Just like in this clip here, I didn't have a plan B after I pushed this enemy player on the shoreline. I didn't need to push him, I could have played it heaps differently, but I decided to close the gap. With my SKS. Monka S. Anyway, I didn't take into consideration that after I killed him, someone might be running up on my position, because obviously they heard the gunshots, right? So, as I'm medding, I'm assuming that I am safe after I've had this gunfight. Once again, another mistake. And of course, there is someone running up on my position and I start taking enemy fire. I didn't know what to do and for some reason I didn't end up running to cover and I ended up just getting dead. So the lesson here is to always have a plan B and don't forget to think about all considerations when making a decision. Alright guys, that's the final tip and that's going to wrap up this video for another 5 mistakes that players make in Escape from Tarkov. Thank you all for watching, I really do appreciate it, and don't forget to like and subscribe for future videos. There will be more beginners guides and also other guides coming out for Escape from Tarkov in the future. Schedule and other details will be in the description box below. And don't forget, you can always catch my live streams at twitch.tv/Kwame_AU. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks again for watching, and hopefully, I'll see you on the live stream.
I got that.